What I didn't factor in was Jalen Hurts is accustomed to winning at a big-time level.
Thanks for tuning in to Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Mac guys, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, with a special guest joining us here. We know the Eagles' upcoming season that will be dictated in a large part by how their starting quarterback plays. And we believe their starting quarterback is going to be Jalen Hurts. Well, a guy who got a chance to see Jalen Hurts at his finest against all apologies to Alabama fans. I think Hurts had his best year as a member of the Oklahoma Sooners. He had a first-hand seat for it. He's been covering the Sooners for decades out there in Oklahoma. Barry Tramel joins us here on Birds 365. Barry, Jody Mack, and John McMullen here. Thanks for hopping on board.
You bet. How you guys doing?
Doing well, Barry. Thanks for joining the show. Before we get into the quarterbacks, because we want to delve deep into that with you because of what's been going on in Oklahoma, I do want to rewind a little bit because I work at Sports Illustrated. We were the ones who kind of broke the story that others confirmed. The first call the Eagles made when they moved on from Doug Peterson was to Lincoln Riley out in Oklahoma. Obviously, NFL teams have a big interest in Lincoln. He could probably pick and choose his spot. From your standpoint, where is Lincoln as a potential future NFL coach? Would he consider it at some point? And has he considered it from anybody to this point?
Well, I mean, I think he considers all those calls. I don't have any doubts that he gave serious thought to the Eagles. I just think at this time in his life, he's still a young man. He's still in his 30s. I forgot. I think he's 38 now. He's still a young man. His entire career's in front of him. So he's a very sharp guy. I don't think he's got the future planned out. I think he makes decisions as they come. And I think right now he's content at Oklahoma, but I don't think that's necessarily a 20-year plan. Clearly the NFL is interested in Riley and his offensive acumen. I mean, around the Big 12, we sort of shake our heads. The Arizona Cardinals hired Cliff Kingsbury, for crying out loud, who was an out-of-work Big 12 coach. So clearly they would want Lincoln Riley. I think he'd be a very good coach. Now, all kinds of good coaches don't win in the National Football League. There are no Kansases in the NFL. There's a bunch of Kansas Cities. So that's a big difference. It's harder to win. But he would be a very good NFL coach. His offense is great. His managerial skills are great. His leadership qualities are top notch. So he's the total package of the modern NFL coach. The Sean McVay types that have sort of really risen to the most wanted list in the NFL.
Are we potentially looking at one of these good news, bad news scenarios, Barry, in that? I should say if, but for the purpose of this conversation, I'll say when the Oklahoma Sooners win a national championship, the head coach doffs his cap and rides off into the sunset and says, yes, now it's next up is the next challenge. That's taking an NFL team to a championship as well. Could it be that he'll stick around because he thinks he kind of owes it to all the Sooner fans out there and those who gave him the chance at his biggest head coaching job? After I deliver a championship, then I can go on and take my next challenge. Could that be the way that it plays out?
Well, it obviously could. Now, there's a couple of things you said in there that are very revealing. One is the idea that he owes Oklahoma something. The truth is, coaches by nature are not a very loyal bunch. They lead the world in breaking contracts much more than players ever thought about doing. But I do think Lincoln has a sense of loyalty to Oklahoma because they did sort of go out on a limb with him. He was head coach at the age of 34, which is remarkably young to get a job like Oklahoma, for crying out loud. So, it's probably one of the 10 or 12 best football jobs, pro and college, in America. To give it to a guy who 2 years earlier was working in Greenville, North Carolina, running the offense at East Carolina University. That was a leap of faith for the Sooners. Now, the more you're around Lincoln Riley, you sort of realize it wasn't that big a leap of faith. He's clearly, the real deal. Most people could see it, and Oklahoma did. And OU has a strong history, not just strong, has an 80-year history of hiring assistant coaches and giving them the head coaching job with the belief they will succeed. It's the Oklahoma way, always has been, and almost always succeeds. So there were reasons for that to happen, but I do think he appreciates that the opportunity he was given at such a young age. I also think, though, that there is an innate belief in most coaches that they want to see how they can do at the other level. We're seeing it with Urban Meyer now down in Jacksonville. We saw it with Nick Saban, for crying out loud. I mean, he tried it, didn't like it, got the heck out of Dodge very quickly. But most of these people on that level of coaching have a sort of desire to try it out, and that probably exists in Lincoln Riley. Conversely, though, there are some differences in college and NFL coaching, and one of those is job security. And if you're Lincoln Riley and get a call from the Eagles, a very solid organization, a long history of good culture, a long history of winning on a regular basis. It's not the crazy Raiders. It's not an inept organization like the Jaguars. I mean, it's a solid football machine. And yet Doug Peterson wins a Super Bowl, and 2 years later, or maybe it's 3, I can't remember the timeline, but he's out on the street.
Yeah.
And if you're Lincoln Riley, you think, I'd have to make a long list of bad things happening before Oklahoma would want to get rid of me. So it's almost job for life if you're Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. It's a place you can keep winning year after year. So there's a lot of things on the college level at a job like that makes you say, I got it pretty good here.
Yeah. You mentioned that history at Oklahoma, which is unbelievable. And they've had a lot of great quarterbacks. We had Sam Bradford for a couple of years here, former #1 overall pick. But recently, Barry, I mean, it has been unbelievable. From Lincoln's start, Baker Mayfield, #1 overall, Kyler Murray in the #1 overall, into Jalen Hurts, who's second in the Heisman voting. Now you have Spencer Rattler, who's going to be a top 5 pick. We don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to guarantee he's going to be a top 5 pick. What is it about this guy in quarterbacks that he's able to do? And maybe these are not the typical skill sets, traits from a not skill set standpoint, from trait standpoint. Baker's not big. Kyler's not big. Jalen's not big. What is it about him and his offense that makes quarterbacks develop at that level?
Well, there's a couple things. One, he's just a brilliant offensive mind. I mean, he does things, and me talking about intricate offense would be like me talking about, thoracic surgery. I have no idea what's going on a football field. I don't know how I only know when things do work. I don't know why they work. No. But Lincoln's one of those guys that knows how to make defenses do things you want them to do, and then attacks the weakness and those kinds of things in terms of formations and motion and rhythm and all those things. So he's got that offensive knack that some people have. Most coaches have it on some level. He's got it at a very high level. He's also an outstanding communicator. He coaches the quarterbacks at Oklahoma. So he's with those guys every day, and he clearly knows how to teach them and lead them and get them to do what he wants them to do. He's superb at identifying your strengths. You mentioned that these different guys, they're not big guys, but they're all different. I mean, the idea that when Baker Mayfield transferred to Oklahoma in January of 2014, the idea that someday he was going to be the overall #1 draft pick in the NFL and then become a Cleveland Brown folk hero as the guy who leads this team out of the wilderness. There's nobody believing that. I mean, this is a guy that was, not even offered a scholarship to Texas Tech coming. When he came to Oklahoma, he basically came to Oklahoma unrecruited. Bob Stoops introduced himself to Baker Mayfield after Baker was already enrolled at OU. So it's just sort of a kooky series of events, and yet they turned that guy into, what we see with the Cleveland Browns. You get to Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has been voted by reputable sources the greatest high school football player in the state of Texas history. So the total package, except he's 5'9"3/4, and nobody believes a 5'9" quarterback is going to succeed at a high level. They figured out how to not just make it work, but make it work great. And now he's, got a bright future with the Cardinals. And then Jalen Hurts, basically a fullback playing quarterback. And they figure out how to make that work. So the most impressive thing is how they've been able to make all these different quarterbacks who are not the total package. I mean, if Kyler Murray was 6'3", he'd be John Elway, is basically what we're talking about. But he's not. Jalen Hurts doesn't have the kind of NFL arm and accuracy that typically goes with success. Baker Mayfield is, about three quarters ruffian. He's, if you looked at his personality, you say that guy needs to play linebacker, not quarterback. And yet they make it work. And that's what sort of seems to be the secret for Lincoln, is that he can take all different kinds of quarterbacks and make it work.
All right, along those lines, and that story you told us about Baker coming in unrecruited and just showing up and then winning the job and becoming what he's become was great. The other two guys also transfers in that started their college career elsewhere and ended it quite successfully, thank you very much, at Oklahoma. You said you don't quite know the secret sauce as to how Lincoln Riley does it with the performance on the field, and he doesn't share that with you or anybody else except his quarterbacks. Has anyone told you, is there someone else there that is on the lookout for other guys at other universities? Because the easiest way to do it is what they're trying to do now with Spencer Rattler. Get a kid out of high school, bring him in, teach him the program, progress, and become the finished product. Their three previous ones all came from somewhere else and jumped into the program in midstream and had the kind of success they have. Is there someone either on that coaching staff behind the scenes who's giving Coach Riley a little whisper in his ear that, hey, Coach, if we could get our hands on this guy, you get your hands on this guy, we can make ourselves another Heisman Trophy candidate here? Is there a guy you can be sharing that credit with in Oklahoma?
There is now, and there is everywhere else with the NCAA transfer portal. Every big-time program has maybe more than one staff member assigned full-time to just checking out that portal and saying, hey, this guy is throwing his name in the hat. Let's look at him and let's check him out. But when Baker came, when Kyler came, there was no transfer portal. You just sort of a word of mouth thing. So Kyler was different than Baker in that everybody knew how good Kyler Murray was. Everybody wanted him. The first time out, when he transferred from Texas A&M, everybody thought what if we could get Kyler Murray? So that's almost like a re-recruiting, and it's similar to what we see now with the portal, where a good chunk of your recruiting efforts now go to recruiting players who have declared to transfer. And Jalen was that way. Now, I can't remember the timeline on whether there was actually an NCAA portal, but it doesn't matter. Jalen was a graduate transfer, so he was eligible to play immediately. So the portal, the mechanism doesn't really matter. When Jalen Hurts says, I love Alabama, but I'm leaving, everybody gets interested. And, looking back, it was clear that there were two or three places that would be ideal for Jalen Hurts to go. When I looked at Jalen Hurts at Alabama and I thought, where could this guy, it's pretty clear with the Tua explosion that Jalen was probably going to need to transfer in order to play. And I remember thinking, in our part of the country, I thought, Jalen Hurts is the perfect Kansas State quarterback because K-State runs their quarterback a bunch. They have under Bill Snyder. They've done it. They did it for years. Successful program, didn't always win at the highest level, but always competitive and would upset teams and won a couple of Big 12 titles. And so a really good program. I thought that would be perfect for Jalen Hurts. What I didn't factor in was Jalen Hurts is accustomed to winning at a big-time level. And I think I don't think Jalen Hurts thought, you know what, I want to get to the NFL, so I'm going to go someplace that's going to do the best for me. I don't think that was his only mindset. I think he wanted to win at a big level. And so I think he put his sights higher than Kansas State. And when you do that, all of a sudden the options are limited. What I didn't know was that Jalen could throw as well as he did or could. And, the first game we saw him was Houston, the 2019 season opener on a Sunday night. Oklahoma played a rare Sunday night game, and I forgot what I think Jalen did something like complete his first 14 passes or went 19 of 21 or something kooky on his statistics. And I thought, hey, this guy throws way better than I thought. Now, he's still not, a rifleman back there. He's still not one of those guys. Sam Bradford could throw the ball anywhere he wanted to.
Yes, he could.
That he was unbelievably accurate, but that's not Jalen. But he got the job done through the air. And when I saw how good he was that first night, I thought, well, he's the total package, and Lincoln's going to be able to work with him. And clearly, Jalen was interested in two things. One, winning at a high level, but also being developed, and he found that in Lincoln Riley. So in terms of looking for quarterbacks, the Sooners are always on the lookout. They've been great with the transfers, but they've also now, for 2 straight years, they've gotten away from that. Spencer Rattler is is a high school recruit. They signed the number 1 quarterback in America a year ago, Caleb Williams, who's now the OU backup as a true freshman. He looked fantastic in the spring game. So I think Lincoln's philosophy is, let's just get him wherever we can, whether it's free agency or whether it's the draft. That's basically what we've got. Is we now have in college football, we have an NFL style. You can draft quarterbacks, sign them as high school kids, or you can go to the transfer portal, sign them as free agents. 2 different ways. The only thing we don't have is trades. When we figure out the trade mechanism, we'll have it set.
That's funny.
That's good intel, Barry, because now we know who's going to be in the mix with the Clemson kid to be number 1 overall in a couple years. So Caleb Williams. I do want to kind of hunker down on Jalen Hurts here, because you've been around guys who turned out to be the number 1 overall pick, and Spencer's going to be somewhere in that range. Versus Jalen, who was a 2nd-round pick. It's kind of the opposite. We've gotten to know Jalen here. He's got all the intangibles. We know the leadership. Guys gravitate towards him. He's got the work ethic. The only thing we're concerned about is kind of what you alluded to. Does he have that high NFL level skill set? Can he throw the football consistently? You mentioned he's a fullback playing quarterback. He was a power lifter. He's incredibly powerful. Do you think he's got the top tier NFL skill set, or is that the biggest concern moving forward?
Well, I think it is the biggest concern. And this rests on the Eagle coaching staff. And, maybe it's a 1-year experiment. Clearly, from here in Oklahoma, looking up at the Eagles, it looks like that's what 2021 is about, is let's figure out if this guy can be our quarterback or not. You can't turn him into a classic NFL quarterback. I don't think ever. I don't think that's going to happen. If you want to win with Jalen Hurts, you're going to have to run him and do the throwing. Now, the question is, can he hold up? Even the toughest guys in the NFL, it's a brutal league. I mean, guys get beat up. And playing quarterback, I don't know. But if you're willing to try it, I think it can be successful, because, a running quarterback is what keeps defensive coordinators up at night. And, all of a sudden forever you've been playing 11 on 10. if you're a defensive coordinator. And when quarterbacks run, all of a sudden it's 11 on 11, and the whole landscape changes. So we saw that Jalen's running ability, just in, sort of the emergency mode that he took over in, I guess it was November, maybe it was early December, whenever, with the Eagles, that, he could be effective. Now, he's going to have to throw better. Was it 52% or maybe it's below 50? I can't remember his completion percentage.
Yeah.
Got to get better. You got to get up close to 60 to survive. But I think he's capable of that. And if you tailor an offense around him, I think it can work. What impressed me about Jalen was, his deep ball accuracy is not bad. The 25-yard out patterns where you're throwing it, 4 inches beyond the cornerback's fingertips, that's probably not Jalen Hurts or ever going to be. And if that's what your offense is predicated on, you're probably in trouble.
Well, then I have to make sure that's not the offense it's predicated on. All right, Barry, last thing. And we are looking down the road a little bit. I happen to be a big Jalen fan. John is a pretty big Jalen fan. We hope he has a great year and the Eagles commit to him and say, you're our quarterback going forward. But if he doesn't, then the Eagles have put themselves in a position where they can go in another direction. They've got a lot of draft capital. They got potentially 3 first-round picks this upcoming year. They can either draft a quarterback or use those picks to try and trade for an established quarterback. If they're actually going to use them or have to use them to move up in the draft, and Spencer Rattler is the guy that they're targeting, give us what he brings to the table. We've seen Baker Mayfield, then we saw Murray, and we've now seen Jalen Hurts, and we'll have a full year of up-close and personal Jalen Hurts evaluation. Give us the Spencer outlook. Is he going to be able to play to the level where he's going to be the first or second pick in the draft? What does he do better or not as good as his predecessors there in Oklahoma? Give us your best Spencer Rattler scouting report.
Well, Spencer Rattler's an interesting case because for 5 straight years, Oklahoma had a quarterback who finished in the top 4 with the Heisman Trophy voting. Baker Mayfield went 4th, 3rd, 1st. Then Murray was 1st, and then Jalen was 2nd. That's 5 straight years of top-flight quarterbacking. Jalen had played 3 years at Alabama. Murray had played 1 year at A&M and then backing up Baker for 2 years at Oklahoma. Baker had played a year at Tech. So even his first year at Oklahoma, he was a Big 12 seasoned quarterback. Here comes Rattler, had never played college football before last season. Plus, you got the pandemic, which made everything screwy. The whole dang season was sort of a mess. And neither Lincoln Riley nor us were sort of accustomed to inexperienced Oklahoma quarterback. It's been a long time. He started out a little rough. He threw some interceptions. He actually got pulled for 2 series against Texas, which is, the holy war of Oklahoma football. And he wasn't fabulous first half of the season, but he was fabulous the second half of the season. And we saw, massive improvement. And by the season's end, he was clearly a star in the making, if not already a star. He's sort of a hybrid of Oklahoma quarterbacks. He's not as elusive or as fast as Kyler Murray. He's not that guy. He's not going to win any wind sprint races. But he's pretty mobile. He's a much more accomplished passer than, say, Baker Mayfield in terms of arm strength. Not quite as accurate as Baker. Baker is very accurate. So he's sort of more of a traditional quarterback. Oklahoma's been winning with non-traditional quarterbacks is the truth. Spencer's sort of more traditional, just a really good quarterback. He can move pretty well. He can throw really well. He's accurate. He makes good decisions, or at least did, the longer he played. So, lots of questions about Oklahoma quarterbacks coming out of the draft. Could Jalen throw? Was Kyler big enough? Was Baker Mayfield a product of the system? Those kinds of things. Nobody's going to think that about Spencer Rattler. He's going to be a traditional high-level quarterback. Oh, this guy's, got everything. Just how good is he? So I agree with you. I think he'll be a top 10 pick. That probably means he's going to be a top 5 pick because quarterbacks never drop. They always rise. They always. If he's already top 10, he's probably moving towards the top. People like the North Carolina kid, Howell, as a potential high pick too. But he's probably one of the top 2 quarterbacks going to be in the draft next season. So he's clearly the total package. Does that mean he makes it? I don't know. Sam Darnold hadn't made it yet. Sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't. But he is he's the real deal. And, we're accustomed to big-time quarterbacking in this league. Patrick Mahomes, we saw him for 3 years at Tech, and he was great. And I never could understand why people weren't picking him. Kansas City moved up to get him at 10, I think, or maybe 11. They could have called me. I said, hey, take Patrick Mahomes. I've seen him do a lot of magical things. Rattler is not as Patrick Mahomes, at least not yet, but he's a traditional, fabulous prospect at quarterback.
Hey, Barry, real quick, because you mentioned it before, and he's still a legend in NFL circles, and Eagles fans do not believe this. When it comes to accuracy, Sam Bradford is unbelievable from an arm talent standpoint. Was unbelievable. Any stories about that from your Oklahoma days? Because I don't think Eagles fans realize just how good it was.
Yeah, as Sam, what I loved about Sam is, he was not highly recruited at all. I mean, he was sort of a local recruit. He's from Oklahoma City, was not on anybody's big time list. Oklahoma offered him early, and people think, oh, that's nice. OU's going to try out a local quarterback, but no fanfare, no anything. He was just a great athlete. He played ice hockey as a teenager, was a fabulous basketball player in high school, which you can see, 6'6" and skilled. You can get a lot done in high school basketball doing that. So just a great athlete, and also played quarterback. And Bob Stoops signed him, and you thought, well, it's good. Maybe someday he'll be the quarterback. And let's see, he would have been in the 06 signing class, redshirted in 06, and then the job comes open in 07. In the spring game of 07, there was a three-man battle for the job. And in that spring game of 07, I'm sitting out there watching, and, Bradford's not, when I say great athlete, I don't mean he runs around, like Patrick Mahomes or Kyler Murray or somebody. He's just, sort of eye-hand coordination, those kinds of things. Just a great athlete, good at anything he does. And one of the dudes, name was Keith Nickel, ended up a wide receiver for Michigan State. He was one of the quarterbacks in that derby, and he was really running around and doing all kinds of great things, scrambling, and people were all fired up about him. But I was watching Sam Bradford. Every pass he threw was just on target. Now, sometimes the guy was in the way and knocked it down or something, but he threw no balls that weren't catchable. Every pass was catchable. And I came away and I asked one of the OU support people in the administration. We were talking. I said, man, I thought Bradford was looking good. He said, hey, Bradford's the quarterback. Everybody knows that. They didn't announce it. Stoops would wait till August, keep everybody interested. But OU knew they had something special, and nobody saw it coming because just a lightly recruited kid from Oklahoma City. And, in 07, he has a really good year as a redshirt freshman. In 08, they have, at the time, the greatest offense ever. They score 60 points, 5 straight games, I think, and Bradford just throws it all over the place. So Bradford's he got hurt. He got drafted into a not great situation with the Rams. Then he gets hurt, and he gets repeatedly hurt. His career didn't go the way you would want it to. But in terms of if you need somebody to pick up a ball, don't go to a carnival. Don't let Bradford into a carnival because he'll wipe out the carnies. He grab a football, throw anywhere you want the football thrown, he'll throw it, and he'll have all the big ducks and stuffed rabbits take home with him because he could deliver that ball.
Very great stuff. You delivered big time for us today, giving us back information on the former Oklahoma quarterbacks and a very good scouting report about Spencer Rattler. Chances are that's why we're going to reach out again, because depending on how the Eagles season goes or the Oklahoma season goes, yes, Philadelphia may be looking to Oklahoma for its next quarterback again. Thanks for giving us some fun stories and insight today. We'll certainly get back to you. Enjoy your summer, buddy.
You bet.
That is Barry Tramel from the Oklahoman. Only been covering Oklahoma Sooner football for 30 years. So we thought he could share a little info and insight with us, and he did just that. All right, Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, the Mac guys coming right back here to put a bow on the show on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.